the morning show.
Yeah.
The Big Show with Glenn and Angel on Kiss 92.
Good morning.
Sometimes getting out of bed in the morning is a lot to deal with all at once.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Good Morning Doctor. Happens every Wednesday at this time, live on The Big Show and The Big Show TV. Today we welcome Pediatric Specialist from Parkway MediCentre, Dr Kao Pao-Tang. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I guess the first thing we need to tell everyone is that we're going to be talking about fevers, falls, frights, basically your doctor's guide to child emergencies. And when it comes to emergencies, what are some of the most common pediatric emergencies, you would say?
Well, if you talk about absolute emergencies, we're going to talk about respiratory emergencies. So that would be the absolute emergency. But to be honest, I think most parents who shows up in emergencies with what they thought was emergencies, usually fever. Okay, so I'm going to say that that's probably the most common reason anybody who bring their kids to emergency, regardless of which facility, is going to be fever.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you specialize in treating children. What's the difference between treating a child and treating an adult? How different are they?
Well, I think it takes someone to bring up one to really knows that they can be quite a pain. Okay. They don't behave, they don't take their medicine, they scream and shout, and they basically break your eardrums. So I'm going to say that, yeah, that's probably the major thing. Basically, number one, they don't tell you. Okay, they just scream and shout at you. It probably takes someone about 6 or 7 years old to really tells you anything reliably. Yeah, you go to the doctor, you tell the doctor, I have a headache, I have a tummy pain. Yeah, kids don't. They just come in screaming and shouting.
Right.
Especially before they start talking as well. You don't know what's wrong with them. Even after that.
Yeah. And that's basically what happened. You're going to have someone with high fever, grumpy, screaming, don't want to drink, and parents have no idea. It can be just a viral fever, it can be hand, foot, and mouth disease. Parents have no idea.
What's happening?
Yeah.
So pediatric doctors are trained differently. Like they are trained in how to deal with the kids, how the psychology, that you guys have to be more patient as well. Is that it?
Okay. We don't officially train. You kind of find the way to get to what you need to do. So some of us clown around, some of us try to wear very pretty overalls and things like that. So basically, eventually you'll find a way to make things work. So I used to work before I had kids, I used to work by being very stern. So the kids fear you a little bit, they keep quiet, they do examine, and that's it. So I have a funny story with that. When I used to work in emergencies, I had a kid that we didn't need to put the wound dressing on, and the kid was just screaming and shouting in the next room because she was being seen by another doctor.
Okay.
So I got fed up with it. I walked in the room, I said, quiet. And the kid went... And then the parents were going, that's amazing. I said, but once I had kids, it kind of changed your way of dealing with them. It doesn't quite work all the time.
Yeah.
So you try to be as gentle as you can. You try to be as kind as you can. And after a while, when you have kids, that becomes you. You become genuine. They know it, actually. The kids picked it up.
They know. When it comes to pediatrics, what are we talking about? Age, what and under?
If you're talking about officially, okay, it's going to be like anybody who is 14 and under. That's what KK takes. We take up to 18 officially. But unfortunately, some of them actually follow us a little bit longer than that. So it all depends on your practice. So certain practices actually... 14 above, please move on, and things like that.
Because, to adult departments.
Right. Yeah. The more complicated your illness is, you tend to stay with the doctor longer.
Right. Do all hospitals here in Singapore deal with children, like especially for emergencies? I mean, you just mentioned emergencies just now, and yesterday we experienced that River Valley fire, and I do believe there were some children involved.
Quite a few,
there.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea where the children were taken. But I would think maybe
KK, I think.
KK.
Yeah.
If
so
it's
from
children.
someone who used to be in that line of work, I'm going to say that majority of seriously injured kids will try to make it to the specialized center. So there will be KK and NUH. mostly because of complexity of things that needs to happen. But in true emergencies, SCDF by rule were sent to the nearest
Closest hospital.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's continue to talk to Dr. Kao on The Big Show TV. Meantime, here's Tyler with Art on Kiss 92.
Now, we've found out about, not long ago, about urgent care centers.
Yep.
Which is sort of your in-between between a doctor and an A&E.
Yeah, because we're always discouraging people from
To go to A&E.
crowding
Yeah.
the A&E, right?
Yeah.
I mean, only for genuine emergencies.
Yeah. So are they specialized to care for children as well?
Yeah, so you're going to look at the national level, there's actually quite a few. It's spread among both the private as well as public healthcare systems. So the official one, in fact, the only one officially for in the public healthcare setup is actually the one in Bukit Panjang. That was set up by NUH. Okay, it's called Pediatric Urgent Care Clinic. They are trying to avoid the moniker of UCC too much, but it still end up as UCC.
Because they don't want the adults coming in? Is that why?
No, so actually happens that when you elevate to the level of urgent care center, you're going to end up with someone who should be in A&E ending up in the urgent care center.
Right, okay.
And so for community-based urgent care centers, that's a challenge. Because your hospital is just not next to you. You can't just ship them over. So that community urgent care center for kids is targeted at kids that meant to go home eventually. So an easy way to decide is that if you even have a little bit of calmness of mind to think about it, is that my aim is to go home. Okay, so you're not going to end up there with broken bones that needs to be fixed. It doesn't make sense, isn't it? I still have to transfer you to a hospital to get that done.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exactly what I mentioned just now, high fever, which is the most common reason any parents bring their kids over. Then next thing will be certain respiratory illnesses we can stabilize on the spot. So for example, those kids with wheezings and asthmas and things like that, we can settle. That's no problem. But even that, actually, that margin is a bit blurred to the next level. So for example, where I work at the moment, the MediCentre, we actually can handle this as well.
Okay.
So generally things that actually can go home after stabilizations, those are where you go to. Then of course you got your routine care, your GPs, your private clinics, your polyclinics, things like that. Those are where you go for things that really doesn't require stabilization. Seen, done, go home.
You spoke about fevers earlier,
Yeah.
like a lot of people bring their kids in with fevers to the
Yeah.
A&E and all that. But I know when growing up, I mean, I've got kids as well. Fevers can be very dangerous. What are some misconceptions of fevers that you want parents to know? Because obviously, if it's very, very high, you want to get super worried, and you don't know how to bring it down. So, what are the misconceptions about fevers?
So you realize that I actually said perceived emergencies, because that's basically what the community in general feels like. High fever is dangerous per se. But I'm going to tell you that is actually not true.
Oh.
Yeah, fever is just a symptom. So what brought that notion of fever being dangerous is basically past experience. So back in the days, I'm going to talk about my parents' generations. Basically, they saw a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but much more meningitis than we have right now. So the external presentation is going to be drowsiness and fever. So that alone make them associate fever being the reason for the outcome.
I haven't heard the word meningitis
Yeah, I
in a long time.
know.
What is it again?
I was looking
what's
it up.
meningitis again?
So
I'm so sorry.
meningitis is basic infection.
Okay.
Specifically, it's actually an infection in the covering of your brain. There's a little bit membrane on just on where your brain sits, and that tends to breed infections because of the nature of how it is.
I see.
And that used to be a lot more common until vaccination came in, and that has come down significantly. Okay, but nevertheless, it's not zero. As what we always say, Singapore, low crime doesn't mean no crime. Same thing. So and we shouldn't get complacent. So anyway, back to my point about fever and meningitis. It's basically they associate the outcome to fever, but it wasn't a fever. It was an infection in the brain that number one kills you, number two it mains you even you survive. Yeah, back in those days, mortality rate is very high. And then the outcome is also very poor.
So meningitis doesn't exist anymore, or it's a very low rate because of
We
vaccination?
still see it though.
You still
Right.
see it.
We
Does
still
it
see
cause hallucinations and all that?
I think drowsiness more like the way you should recognize it.
So
Yeah.
when do we know it's meningitis, and when do we know it's just a fever?
So should we talk about how to recognize it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, the unofficial way, I'm going to say that intuitively you know. Most parents will know. But if you want to be very objective about it, you can use our usual training monocle, so the ABCs. So you're going to talk about breathing, alert. You're going to see whether the A is for alert. Are they alert or are they drowsy? So any case of drowsy ain't right. Generally parents know, is it nap time or maybe it's nap time. Sometimes they will try to explain to you, why is this nap time? I say, but isn't this a bit unusually drowsy? Then of course B is for breathing efforts. So are they breathing well? Are they breathing normally, or are they like very
Wheezing.
breathless? Yeah, wheezing you will know actually. Most also know they're breathing funny. But are they breathing fast or breathing too slow, for example?
Right.
Yeah. So the kids that get head injury, eventually they breathe very slow.
Oh.
Yeah. They are drowsy, they breathe very slow. If you don't do something about it.
Oh, wow.
And then of course there's C for color. Yeah. So
Okay.
you should look a little bit of pinkish kind of thing. But if you're pale, if you're blue,
If you're a bit grey, blue,
yeah,
anything
okay.
but pink.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
if you're red, if you have allergic reaction, you're like a lobster. You would spend too much time under the sun, and yeah, so that would be something to look out for. So it's a very convenient
ABC. Alert, breathing, and color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I feel like, when children have fevers, they feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like how when we were kids, we would I would immediately tell my mom, like, okay, I want to go to the doctor right now, and when I was growing up, I'm like, try to get me well as quickly as possible. Okay, let's go on there and talk about this a little bit more.
Kiss 92 traffic.
On the SLE towards the CTE after the Lento Avenue exit, look out for an accident. Also on the KPE towards the TPE, a vehicle's broken down after the Nickel Highway entrance. Look out for those situations and let us know if you spot anything else. 8855509020.
Welcome back to The Big Show and The Big Show TV. Today we have a pediatric specialist with us from Parkway MediCentre. He is Dr. Kao Pao-Tang. Good morning once again, Dr. Kao. And we were talking about fevers just now, and Angel was saying, a fever is really, really dangerous when it comes to children. And you said, well, not really.
Not as much as it was when our parents were bringing us up, right?
Well, fever was never dangerous to start with. Like I was trying to explain, basically it's just a symptoms. It doesn't tell you what the source is. So for us, it's very important to know whether there's telltale signs to where the source is. So majority of the kids that come to us for fevers are general viral fevers, and they get loads and loads of it. So I usually tell parents as a reference, if you start child care or infant care, to be sick on an average of every 2 to 3 weeks is common.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in the earlier development stages, that's what they have to go through. Your body just has to develop the
Immunity.
That's right. But the thing is there associated symptoms? And half the time there isn't, because viral fever generally don't give you anything at the beginning. So you have to use your clinical judgments, back to what I told you about the ABC: A for alert, B for breathings, and C for colors. It's actually also the same tools that we use to tell you whether kids are okay or not okay. So, like I said, if they are generally well, they're playing okay, they're drinking okay. Yeah, and you're right that when they have fever, they don't sleep well, and
They feel very uncomfortable,
and
kids.
the
Right?
parents don't sleep well.
That's true. That's true.
And parents get grumpy about it. Then, of course, that's why I say, actually, while we know it's not a true emergency, we see them early. because we know parents are worried.
I think when I was a kid, my mom used to give me ice cream, when I had fever.
To cool down
She
the
always says, as
inside
long as I
of the-
don't have a cough or whatever, just old-fashioned way of like
No ice cream
keeping
for
the
coughs and
kid cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that really works, but it probably won't harm either.
and it makes the kid feel better, right? Having
if you
some
like
ice cream.
yeah, and you're not lactose intolerant.
So many
Loved
things.
ice cream.
So many things to think about these days. Well, we have Eric that messaged us on our Facebook, and Eric says, my kid had a high fever until a seizure occurred.
Oh, wow.
Can the doctor advise parents what to do when a seizure or a fit happens?
So that's not uncommon. So it's about 5% of kids.
As in the seizure was really caused by the
The fever?
Yeah, but it's not okay. So this is a co-febrile seizures, and these are reasonably prevalent in the community itself. And it's not so much how high the fever is, but rather how rapid the uptake went. So in general, our system sort of crashes when our fever shoots up too fast. It doesn't have to be high; it just has to be very fast. And this occurs in some kids more so than other kids. Sometimes parents had it, and then the kids are sort of more prone to it. That kind. Majority of this is harmless, meaning they don't lead to anything lifelong. Small percentage can be the initial presentations of eventual epilepsies and things like that.
Okay.
So, but it's not that high. We always, as a first upstart, as mentioned, there are first aid procedures that needs to be done. Okay. Generally, it's more like what do you not do than what you do.
Okay. What do you not do?
Yeah, don't stick your finger in the mouth.
Okay.
It's a very Asian thing. It's like, especially Chinese, if they say that if you bite the tongue, you're gonna die, kind of thing.
But do you put like a stick or anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
All right.
Okay, because that fear came from the kids biting their tongue, and that will maim them and something like that. It doesn't. They really can bite their tongue sometimes. Sometimes I will stitch up tongues because of that, but it doesn't maim them.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the most important part. The key thing is protect the airway, meaning that's why you don't put things in the mouth. Okay? If you try to stuff your finger in the mouth, if you try to stick in the mouth, sometimes you push the tongue back and it actually blocks
gets choked.
Yeah, that's right. So actually that's a key. So it's not what, it's more of what you do not do. Second thing, of course, if you have basic first aid training, you always know that in someone who is unconscious, in this case it is, okay, the last thing you're going to should not do is pick up the kid and trying to shake them to wake them up.
So don't do that.
Don't do that, please. Don't pick up the kid. Don't pick up the kid and run. I mean, I have another story to tell. Back I was in emergency. The kid came in after a seizure plus a head injury. Why? The parents ran out the door, banged the kid's head on the door.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
we are not the most careful when we freak
when
out.
you're panicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So came in both and makes their life a little bit harder. So observe the kid. Kid turns out well. Don't worry. The kid turns out well. Just wear a baluku on the head. Not fun, right?
No.
So that is second thing. Don't pick up. Don't run. Don't panic. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3, recovery position. Okay. So the advice for recovery position is changing a little bit based on the etiology. Meaning, if you see someone on the road and someone has traffic accident, loss of consciousness, you can't touch them. You can't turn them. Yeah. But someone who is witness loss of consciousness, for example, seizures and things like that, you can turn them.
Right.
Yeah. So the reason for turning is so that they don't choke on their own saliva.
Okay.
And that's all you do, actually.
Okay.
Right. Let's continue to talk to Dr. Kao on the Big Show TV. It's 8:24.
Coming up at 10.
You know, Dr. Kao, I mean, thank you for that. But I just want to talk about fevers because you said a lot of them are not, well, they're not dangerous. It's the meningitis, which is not very common anymore. And so are you suggesting that parents try to heal their kids at home or sort of cool them down at home before actually rushing them to the doctors?
These are viral fevers you were talking about.
So these are viral fevers. So the difficulty of that advice has always been, then some parents takes it too far. That's why it's very important to at least understand that this is viral fever. But you have not gone through it before, it's very hard for you to make that judgment. So I give you an example. We tell parents, please don't rush to A&Es, don't rush to see a doctor. I mean, even normal doctors, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Because to be honest, you pick up new things at clinics.
At the clinics, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, but okay, so case in point, a parent, this kid, I think about 10, and then had a fall during a ball game and had bruises over the hand. And mom said, it's okay, just ice it off and things like that. Next day, it was still not moving that well. And well, in this case, it happens to be a friend of mine. So texted me, I hate to bother you, but do you think this looks right? And I look at the bruise, I go like, can you move his finger? No. I say, I think he might have a broken finger.
Yeah.
So sometimes parents, with that kind of reassurance, takes it too far. Okay, so you need to have a middle ground. Okay, if you're not familiar with the system, see the doctor. It's fine. We are not annoyed. We're not upset. We just hope that you can eventually develop ability to handle some of things
At home.
You know, what's the point of bringing the kids to see a doctor when you haven't even given fever medicines yet? Yeah, so the kid ended up in our clinic with screaming, shouting, fever 39.5. The parents are freaking out, and it's not fun, right? Yeah, so in fact, it helps us if you manage your fever first. They come in a very calm state.
Yeah.
It allows us to do our job a lot easier.
Okay. Okay. That
So with
makes sense.
for viral fevers,
Just fever
paracetamol.
medicine. Yeah, or your good old-fashioned ice cream.
Ice cream. Or cool, and you can like cool them down as well with wet toweling and
So
stuff.
the turbid sponging is sort of a little bit controversial nowadays.
Oh, is it?
Because, yeah, it doesn't fix the core, meaning it doesn't really change your body. It's just taking the heat away. So when the body is not ready to come, the fever is not ready to come down yet, they won't come down. So a common trick I teach parents is that please feel the hands.
Okay.
If the hands are cold, they are not ready to come down. So you try to turbid sponge them, it just makes them more upset.
What about ice pack on the
Same.
head? No.
Same.
Okay.
So all those fever patches and all that, you say they're
That's
not
more for comfort.
comfort.
Yeah,
okay.
that's more for comfort.
Okay.
Because if you logically think about it, your whole body surface area versus just a patch on the forehead, physics will tell you that it's not going to be the main reason for the fever to come down. Yeah.
So you're saying when the hands are clammy and cold,
Yeah.
the fever is not ready to break yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you try to force it to break, they generate shivers, and then it's even more uncomfortable for the kid.
Right.
So my advice has always been just a very light pajamas, long sleeve pajamas, so they don't get the wind chills and things like that.
How do people force a fever to break?
They-
I've never heard of that.
I've still heard of people trying to cold sponge the kids and things like that. So it's very distressing for one. Number two, it doesn't change your body biochemistry. So when it's not ready, it's not ready.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you can't push it along.
I always remember, like my mom, and like what you mentioned, parents get a little bit worried when their children have fevers and
Yeah.
all that. And I know when my fever is about to break, my mom will be quite happy when I start to
Sweat.
perspire.
Yes.
The moment she feels like, I'm perspiring,
Okay,
and she's
you're
like,
gonna-
okay,
it's
you're
gonna
getting
break.
better.
Yeah.
You're getting better.
And that is your body physiology talking
It's
to you.
crazy, yeah.
But it takes a lot of sanity to observe that when your kid's having 39.5.
Yeah, of course. Every
Yeah.
parent would panic, right?
Yeah.
Besides fever, what are the other common health concerns or emergencies that you see among children these days, especially?
So we talked about respiratory infections just now. Viral fever is not a true emergency, and I stress not true, but most parents can't deal with that independently. So we see them, we advise them, if necessary investigations. Then, of course, there are other emergencies such as trauma. Okay, so in the context of recent events, I'm going to just briefly highlight. We've done everything together, be it fire, be it motor vehicle accidents, foreign bodies, we all put them under the trauma side of things. Now, they are very event-specific, meaning the reasons are diverse. It's always good that parents have a little bit of first aid knowledge, okay, a little bit of first aid kit at home. Case in point, the finger, immobilize it if you can, improvise or proper
Like a
immobilize
splint
it.
or something.
That's right. You can improvise splints. You can just fold out magazines and splint your hand easily. Just fold out a magazine, tip it around. You can immobilize it pretty effectively. Then, of course, head trauma. So
Okay.
head injury will be one that most parents will worry about.
Okay, let's go on there and wrap that up.
Kiss 92 traffic.
On the TPE towards the PIE after Seletar Links exit, look out for a vehicle that's broken down. Also on the PIE heading east towards the airport after Engyo Avenue, look out for another vehicle that's broken down there. Wherever you are, stay safe.
Welcome back to The Big Show and The Big Show TV. It's Good Morning Doctor Day, and we have with us Dr. Kao Pao-Tang, Pediatric Specialist from Parkway MediCentre. And we've been talking about how, parents, I know you're concerned about your kids and all that, but you don't have to panic.
That's true, yeah.
There's a lot you can do
at
in
home
order to make things easy by the time you reach, the MediCentre, so to speak.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of emergencies, just one more emergency that I want to speak about because I feel that this is something that happens a lot at home. We've spoken about fevers and fits and seizures as well as, bones breaking or fracturing. But what about burns? Because I feel like this is quite common at home when kids accidentally get scalded or burn themselves. What are some of the remedies people can do at home for immediate relief?
So, generally depends on the agent that this happens to. So, if example is liquid stuff, so scalds and burns, they are separate actually. So for scalding, the first thing you do is of course remove what is scalding you. So what's the first thing you do? Drag them to the shower and just
cold water,
hose them down first. Okay, so that's important. Of course, contact burns, for example, your irons are classic. Actually, irons are classic. Basically, that remove immediately from the source of the burns. Okay, number two, again, is to cool it down. Now, it's a little bit tricky. It actually depends on whether the skin got scalded off or not.
Yeah.
But regardless, you should just cool it down because it prevents deeper injuries.
Ice?
No, you can just still flush them, actually.
Flush with water.
But they're going to scream at it.
They are going to scream if the skin is broken.
If it's broken, for sure.
We've all been burned by an iron before.
Yeah.
I mean, I have.
But I'm going to say, even if anything else, don't do silly things. Don't put toothpaste. Don't put the...
That's one thing I'm guilty of.
Yeah.
But it works for
What?
me, though.
You mean till now?
Yeah, absolutely, because it
Silly
doesn't bubble.
girl.
No, but my burn doesn't bubble.
No.
It works for me.
It might be the
coolness of the menthol.
Correct, because not the menthol, but because you have a liquid agent that draw the heat out.
Yeah.
So that might be the reason behind it.
Okay.
But the key thing is, number one, you cool down the injury to prevent deeper injuries, because the deeper it goes, the more scar you're gonna get.
Right.
Okay. Number two is that please don't do like turmeric, don't put things like that into the wound. Chinese like to zampak them, or the snake oil thing.
Oh my goodness.
It's horrible.
There's something called Bernal. I remember.
I remember Bernal, the tube.
Yes.
Yes.
They were never meant for broken skins, by the way.
Right.
They were actually meant for intact skins.
Like slight scalding.
Very few things are meant for open burns. Yeah, so that's important. So if they say there's open wounds and things like that, wet cold towels, wrap it up, bring to the doctor.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, we need to dress that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, before we let you go, Doctor, what's the one thing you wish for Singaporeans to take away from today's session?
Kids are in general very resilient. I mean, they're healthy. They don't have decades of poor life choices. They're in general quite healthy. They're going to get a lot of viral infections for sure. It's part of development. There are things that we can do about it. For example, the most serious ones, vaccination, please do carefully consider them. I know there are some parents who are seriously concerned about that. Talk to one of us. We will explain to you. Okay, a lot of these concerns are actually not true. Okay, that's the other thing. Next thing you know what's common among kids, how to handle them. You should know the doses of the usual medicines for your kids. Useful. Don't know it, look it up. Okay, or ask us about it. And then if not sure, visit us. We're happy to talk to you about it. Okay?
All right.
And I think that's about it. Yes. First aid kits, fire extinguisher at home. I know it's a touchy topic at the moment, but seriously, I think some things can't be put out by willpower. So, we really need to look at that. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for that, Doctor. Thank you. By the way, where are you located?
I'm now currently working at Parkway MediCentre. This is at Bidadari.
Okay.
In a very cushy place called the
Woodley
Woodley
Mall.
Mall.
Woodley Mall.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, if you want to look for Dr. Kao, you know where to find him. Thank you so much, Dr. Kao Pao-Tang. Once again, Pediatric Specialist at Parkway MediCentre. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've got you covered on Good Morning Doctor, brought to you by Parkway MediCentre.
Right, we are back with our second guest, Nicholas Fang, Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy at Black Dot. Yes, consult him anytime. And he's also
For a fee.
for a fee,
okay,
definitely.
yeah.
Yes,
There's no free advice.
Yeah, correct. And he's also the Director for Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. And that is the reason why you are in the studio today.
I thought
because
it's just for my good company and
that
great
too.
That
sense
as
of
well.
humor.
Yes, that as well. Just a little bit though.
That's why you've been here on the show on so many occasions, because when we have questions we cannot answer, we call upon Nicholas Fang.
Who do you call?
Nicholas Fang!
Okay, we're going on here.
We're overselling this a little bit.
Colby Kylie, Falling For You right here on Kiss 92, all the great songs in one place. We are still on The Big Show and The Big Show TV, and our second guest is Nicholas Fang, a good friend of ours. He is Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy at Black Dot and Director for Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. When we have questions we cannot answer, who do you call?
Nicholas Fang. So it is the latter of your very long title that we are actually looking at, because you are our specialist when it comes to global affairs and politics and everything that's going on in the world. So I think the word that's been on everyone's mind for the past couple of weeks is tariffs. Tell us a little bit more about what's happening in the world in terms of trade tariffs.
I think
President
it's
Tariffs
been-
Trump.
Yeah, I think it's been hard not to hear about tariffs and the impact in the past few days, right? I mean, from as far back as last year, Trump was talking about the most beautiful word to him, which was tariffs, and I think we shouldn't be surprised. He had made it a cornerstone of his election campaign, and he was talking about his plans to roll out tariffs, as soon as he could, as soon as he got back to the White House, and he sees it as a way. A key pillar of his MAGA strategy, to make America strong, to stop the world from taking advantage of America, and it speaks a lot to his worldview, which is terribly transactional, very much deal based. If you win, that means I lose. If I win, that means you must lose. And tariffs play very nicely into that sort of philosophy that he has. I think if you look at the stock market, if anybody follows the stock
my
market,
goodness.
it's crazy. If you're listening to our Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong, in Parliament yesterday, he made a speech about it as well, to kind of, I guess, to reassure people that, while this is a bad situation, we shouldn't necessarily panic, but I think we need to brace ourselves. I think that was the gist of the message.
Why do you think the entire world is not being understanding of America? Because according to Donald Trump, I mean, this is good for America, right? Make America great again. But the rest of the world at this point, who are pissed off, are going MAGA stands for and should be Make America
Go away.
They're all angry with America right now. Are we being selfish?
I think it stems from the rest of the world actually potentially understanding how economics and trade works. I think Donald Trump has a point, and if you listen to the messaging that is being pushed out to the domestic audience, which of course comprises his base in the US, then it doesn't sound like a terrible message, right? You want to stop people from taking advantage of your country. You want to,
Bring money
back
money
in
in,
instead of. But I think if you look at the economy that we have in the world, the simplistic way of putting things is that it's not such a simple equation as, if you sell me more things than I buy from you, that means I pay you more money, then I need to stop that. I want you to pay me money. But the world and the way that the trade system has developed, largely under the direction of countries like the US, you'll see that it is a kind of a circular economy, right? If the US produces something, it's manufactured in another country, maybe assembled in a third country, and then sold back to American
the US,
consumers. Then how can you say that, wow, then that means there's this massive deficit because everybody is just selling one thing to the other person, so tariffs everywhere, right? And that artificially raises the prices, and it's a little bit more complex than what I just described, but one of the potential end effects is that things will become more expensive, and potentially more expensive for American consumers. And that's why the stock market is reacting the way it is. A lot of companies are thinking, and investors as well are thinking that, oh my goodness, we're in for a rough ride. Better sell stuff, sell off stocks and all that, and that's why the markets are sort of dropping as well.
Yeah, quite a number of friends have lost money already. I've been drinking with them every day, actually.
Good. Thank you for supporting the local FM
Yeah,
industry. That's a good part of the
And
economy
Glenn's been
too.
paying because clearly they've
Of
lost so
course.
much money. So
Absolutely. Let's continue to talk to Nick on the Big Show TV. It's 8:44.
Go big or go.
Well, the U.S. has been taking in something like $2 billion a day since the tariffs have been announced.
Trump claims.
Trump claims, yeah. Is
Trump claims.
this bad for Singapore? Like the 10% tariffs that he's put on Singapore?
Well, I mean, Singapore, as Prime Minister Wong also made the point, he looked quite serious, but he also made the point that we are at the lowest end of the 10% was what he levied on everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he put extras
On top,
on a lot of other countries.
But
and
still, we are disappointed.
no, for sure, we're
Because of the
disappointed.
FTA as well.
That's right, and it's good to a certain extent that Prime Minister Wong said that Singapore's not going to retaliate because we have the FTA, and I think we are trying to let cooler heads prevail at some stage. Now, still not entirely sure how this is going to play out because Trump has said, okay, there are now 70 countries queuing up to talk to me. I've directed my officials to do customized deals, tailor-made deals for each country. So depending on what you offer me, I'll tweak the tariffs and stuff like that. China, of course, it says, screw that, we're not going to give in at all. And, here's some retaliatory tariffs for you, right? Which is now...
What is it at now?
They're looking at 104%.
From China to the US?
No, from
the US to China.
China was going to put 34% retaliatory, and the US and Trump says, well, here's another 50%.
50%, which is,
Total,
104.
Yeah, 104%.
He's trying to bully China.
I think he's trying to make a statement for sure, and he promised all of this. I think we have to remember he promised all of this on the campaign trail. So he kind of needs to have a few wins, visible wins, so that his base is happy and people will think that he is the strong leader that he is. But I just wanted to make one point. I think one of the key issues is uncertainty. That's what Singapore really doesn't like, and a lot of other countries around the world. And Trump one of his trademarks is his volatility. So,
he wakes up one day and goes on X and decides to...
exactly. He reads a tweet and decides to change policy
things.
based on that. And that keeps a lot of his partners and counterparts around the world a little bit off balance. And to a certain extent, I think that's why people are a little bit afraid of him. Not necessarily because he's going to do something, press a nuclear button or anything like that, but because they cannot predict what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't follow a traditional philosophy, whether it's a Democrat philosophy or a Republican philosophy. He doesn't have a playbook of leadership that, people can sort of work off. Singapore doesn't like that for sure. I think we, of all things, prize stability and predictability. I think that's what we try to offer people in a very uncertain, complicated world, is that, in Singapore, for a long time, we know what we're going to get because we have stable government, society, safety, security, and all that. So this world is not something that we like. But to be fair, at the same time, it's not the first time we've seen things like this. Maybe first time in a long time. But you have had leaders, who have leveraged on tariffs in the past.
Right.
Not very good outcomes, I must say. The past times, US went into recession as an indirect effect of a tariff policy.
Do we see that happening, a recession? Is it on the horizon?
I think we are bracing. Again, harkening back to what PM Lawrence Wong said yesterday, we shouldn't rule that out. And I think we can see that people are already tightening their belts. The fact that Glenn has to buy drinks for his
He
friends.
buys drinks no matter what.
That's true also.
Recession or no recession.
I buy him drinks.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Whenever
all
he
right.
allows me to. But yeah, it is. I think it's something that is on the minds of a lot of people, which is worrying, because then, for an economy, people will start pulling back, saving a little bit more, and that leads to an economic slowdown. Ironically, because people are not spending. And the US, for whatever you want to say, is still a very big global market. I'm sure China will feel the pinch if they don't get access to the US market. Sure. But they're looking at Europe, they're looking at how to engage with the rest of the world, and I think that's what all of us have to do. I think we potentially are, and this is what a lot of the observers are saying, we're saying a change in the global order. The thing about tariffs is that you can change your mind, but once you institute that into a system, it's quite hard to unwind, right? Because it's a significant policy. So even as Trump now talks about doing special deals here and individual deals for different countries, we really need to see how it plays out, because the impact can be quite long term as well.
Yeah. Domestically, Trump is doing all kinds of things. I mean, I've been watching Fox News and all that, and it's kind of radical because of how America has always been. And now you get someone like Trump who's coming in and using, as he always says, common sense. You don't want a problem here, you eradicate what's causing the problem straight away. So he's ruffling feathers, obviously, in the US. In your opinion, do you think Trump is doing the right thing for America?
I think his actual words were shake things up.
Disrupting.
Right? Yeah, and he disrupting is too big a word. Yeah, shake things up is a small, simple words. But I think he himself admitted that his tariffs policy, the comment he made was he said he recognized he's been a bit explosive, which is one way of putting it. You destroy the entire global trading system.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Globalization, I guess, is kind of explosive. But yeah, is he the right leader for America? I think time will tell. A lot of claims that he made in his first term of making like the best, this is the best economy that America has ever seen and stuff like that. It's all slightly overblown. It's a little bit exaggerated.
That's his style.
Like
if you
him.
watch The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on air again and talk about this a bit more.
Kiss 92 traffic.
On the PIE towards Tuas, there's been an accident right after Jurong East Avenue 2. Avoid the rightmost lane. Also on the PIE towards the airport, a vehicle's broken down at Toh Guan Road's exit. If you spot anything, our number is 885550
Welcome back to The Big Show and The Big Show TV. We have been speaking to Nicholas Fang, Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy at Black Dot, and he's also the Director for Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. We've been talking about Donald Trump, tariffs, and how all the countries in the world right now, they are starting to feel they're in trouble, a little afraid. Economies are a little vulnerable now as a result of that. But I also asked Nick about Trump for America. Is Trump good for America? The Americans obviously voted him, in as president once again. But if you talk to any American and you ask them about Donald Trump, they
all hate him.
No, Trump is this and Trump is that. But I suspect deep down inside, they are for Trump because they know that, he's trying to make a difference. He's trying to, as he says, make America great again.
But the pickings were slim, right? I mean, at the time. So
that's what you think. I mean, she's very critical of Donald Trump.
I think my opinion, yes.
Yeah, of course she has an opinion. But like I always tell Singaporeans, right? I mean, we are critical of Donald Trump because we don't live in America. But if you are an American and your life hasn't been that great, and you get a president coming in focusing on America, trying to make things better for Americans in general, wouldn't you love a leader like that?
Okay, so how long do we have for this discussion? Because this go on
2
all
minutes.
day. But I think you made a good point. First and foremost, he was voted in. He did win the popular vote this time. It wasn't necessarily just a manipulation of the swing states and stuff like that. And I think the general wisdom is that there was a lot of unhappiness with the previous system, with the status quo, and people just wanted a change. Now, did they know exactly what they were getting into? Debatable. And as we were sort of saying just now off air, a lot of claims that Trump makes is a little bit hyperbolic, is a little bit exaggerated, overblown. And time will tell whether he is really, really going to put America in a better place than where he started off. A lot of indicators would say probably not. The tariff situation, if it starts to raise prices, if we start to see America becoming a bit more isolated, he talks about bringing jobs back from overseas. It doesn't make sense. Do Americans really want low-wage jobs that have been outsourced to the rest of the world? Do they want to be, assembling stuff and all that, or are people aspiring to high-tech, high-income wage jobs?
The memes are already out there.
Yeah, so to a certain extent, it is a very complex question, but he does break things down into such a simple way that he gets a message across that he's looking out for people, American people, and he's on their side and he's doing this for America. The deeper question to ask is he really? Because when I talk to my American friends and I said, why are you guys so shocked and dismayed? Because, everybody voted for him and he said he was going to do all these things.
You knew it was going to happen, right?
Yeah, but they said there's certain things that have been quite shocking to them. I think one of which is, corruption is a strong word, but there has been some things done that really raises some eyebrows. He's bringing in of a lot of private sector corporate type people like Elon Musk. Some of the transactions that have been going between Musk and X and Trump and the State Department and Tesla, people are saying, wow, it's like an oligarchy, and the businessmen are taking care of themselves. That's one. The second thing is, of course, the way he treats international partners. Tariffs aside, we all remember how he and JD Vance spoke to Zelensky in the White House, which was crazy, right? You don't talk to people, even friends, you don't talk to people in a casual setting like that, but much less enough fellow
Formal
global leader
yeah.
in the White House.
Yeah.
So they were quite taken aback that wow, it is a bit like that.
But
And it
I
comes
feel
back-
Zelensky started that one.
No.
I was watching it.
And recently there was name calling as well by
Yeah.
Vance to certain superpowers in the
Yeah,
world as well.
and Elon and peasants, he's
Yeah.
talking to Chinese people.
I didn't want to say that.
peasants, and Elon Musk is starting a war with Peter Navarro and calling him Peter Retardo.
Oh my gosh.
My goodness, this is
So
this is
entertaining.
crazy,
I like
right?
it.
Popcorn.
It is entertaining, but this is the quality of leadership that you have
Yeah.
there, and I think to me that is the bigger question, right? When we used to say, right, when Obama came into the White House, first black president, they used to say, wow, anybody can become president of the United States. When Trump came in, they said anybody can become president of the United States, and I think that says a fair bit.
Okay. All right. I wish we had more time.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
we've got to call it like right now.
Call
I
it
think
quits.
We'll have to invite you back again on the
Got to
show
hold this
very
space
soon.
for me next time.
Hold this space.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Nicholas Fang, Managing Director of Strategic Consultancy at Black Dot and Director for Security and Global Affairs at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. Thank you so much for coming in today. All right. Coming up next, headline news and sports.
This is brand new. Here's a tune that's fresh this week on Kiss 92.